Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with more John Wilson playing music for strings. And this time he has gone outside of England to take into account some serious fin de siècle, or a little past that, late romantic, super duper, uber decadent stuff. Here we go. What do we get? We get Strauss, Metamorphosen, and Franz Schreker's Intermezzo for string orchestra, and Korngold's Symphonic Serenade for string orchestra, which was written for the Vienna Philharmonic. Now, I have pointed out previously in my other chats that this string orchestra stuff seems to be what John Wilson is doing really well. He gets terrific playing. Chandos has found a way to record the ensemble so that they sound absolutely luminous. And this is another example of that. These are very, very good performances. And I've also mentioned before that he tends to rush a little bit. You know, quick tempi are generally good things. Don't get me wrong. Better too fast than too slow most of the time. But you want quickness. You don't want to sacrifice, let's put it this way, expression, phrasing, accent, those things on the altar of mere speed. You can be quick and do it all, as, for example, Heifetz did. Some people complain, for example, that Heifetz is cold and mechanical because he preferred quick tempos. But he did quick tempos along with all the other things. He had the phrasing and the accentuation and all the other stuff. And that's what we want to hear. And then at that point, the fact that it's exciting as hell, well, that's a bonus. Now, Metamorphosen is not exactly one of those pieces that comes under the exciting as hell category. I mean, it's a half-hour-long adagio. Here it's 28 minutes, which is absolutely within the normative Metamorphosen tempo parameters. Some of them are slower. I think this is exactly right. It's quick enough so that it doesn't just bogged down, but you never get the sense that he's being, facetious about a piece which was written, to commemorate the destruction of the Europe that Strauss once knew. I think Metamorphosen is a tremendously moving piece. I mean, it's true. It can sound like, gloop. if you don't sort of, give it a, enough sort of shape, it can be just a adipose mess, basically. But the piece is so terribly moving and so sad and so heartrending, and I feel for Strauss in a way. I mean, people tend to jump on him because, he cooperated with the Nazis to an extent. But, here's a guy who spent virtually his entire life, into the last 20 years of his life, essentially, working in an aristocracy and learning how to get along with these hereditary goobers who claimed that they had the right of kings to rule over everybody else, and they ruled over Strauss. And so he had to find ways to cohabitate with them. And he didn't think that the Nazis were going to be any different. They were just, aristocrats under a different name. Well, it turns out that they weren't. It turns out that they were much more horrible than that. But you couldn't really expect Strauss to know that in advance. And, he was just playing his usual game, politicking and ass licking and, doing all the things that courtiers and people like that did to appease the high muckety mucks who were running things. And so by the time he got to the Second World War and he looked around him and realized how wrong he'd been, and he did know that. He really did. And he saw how everything had just been completely destroyed, all the things he loved and valued. And he wrote this work, and it's really, really special. Now, the Korngold, the Schreker is just a little intermezzo, a very beautiful one, by the way. It's lovely. It's only 6 minutes long, and it's just marvelous. But the Korngold was composed also after World War II, after, just before actually Korngold died. And like I said, he wrote it for the Vienna Philharmonic. It's an extremely difficult piece to play. Really difficult. It's also harmonically rather advanced. I mean, people like to make fun of Korngold because, they say it's more corn than gold, and he wrote Hollywood schlock, and he did, all the terrible things that serious composers aren't supposed to do. As if, writing operas about sexual depravity is something that serious composers do. I mean, come on. Who are we kidding, right? But the Symphonic Serenade is a really beefy, meaty, somewhat harmonically acerbic piece. It wasn't a big success when it was first played. I can imagine the Vienna Philharmonic having a nervous breakdown because it really is a difficult work to play, and it's done extremely well here. And here, I think Wilson's urgency really pays dividends. It's not a piece that you want to drag. You want to really, really nail it. I mean, all of Korngold is basically like that. Korngold never lost that youthful fire that he had when he was 3 and writing amazing pieces of music. All of his music had this energy and this quicksilver quality about it. And it's wonderful stuff. And this is a lovely work, but it does take some getting used to and some listening. And this, to me, sounds like just the kind of performance that's going to ingratiate it to the wider populace, hopefully. Most performances of this are on Korngold-only discs with other stuff. And that's fine too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think when you place something in context, especially an unusual work, and with a certified major work like Metamorphosen, then you have a better chance of giving people a way in, an entree into a composer who they might not otherwise enjoy. So I think this is a splendid disc, wonderfully recorded, excellently played, and I recommend it accordingly. It's John Wilson, the Sinfonia of London, with Korngold, Schreker, and Strauss. I hope they do more of this string orchestra stuff. They do it very, very well, and they're very well recorded. This is good, really good. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.